Yes, hi, Rachel.
Yes, sir.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Great. What is the Rob and Slim show, and we're talking to Rachel McIntosh.
Yep.
Cool,
Yep. This is
cool.
me.
Yeah, no, I wanted to double check your name. I didn't want to say the
Yeah.
wrong
No,
name.
it's Rachael L. McIntosh. Because my
Okay.
middle name is Lynn, and I didn't want to sound like a country singer.
Yeah, right.
Now, your book, Rachel, is Security Through Absurdity.
Yeah. The
And
first book is Little Yellow Stickies, and it's a series. Security Through Absurdity is a series.
okay,
And the first book is Little Yellow Stickies, and it's about my time. It's a fictionalized account, otherwise I'll end up in jail. My time in working for a defense contractor.
okay.
What is a defense contractor? Because I'm not really sure on what that is.
Oh, okay. It's just about anything that the government might need to buy from the Department of Homeland Security, and the defense contractor makes it.
Makes
I
those
worked
deals?
for a company, one of the largest ones. I worked for one of the largest ones, and I was in charge of marketing communications for 5 of their divisions. And one of their divisions was a mercenary branch.
Oh.
And one of their divisions made simulators. One of them made drones. So yeah, basically it could be anything. One of them, a lot of the company that I started working for just made stuff for submarines. And after 9/11, we quickly sort of morphed into other things. But
Wow.
the mercenary branch was very profitable.
How is it dealing with the Department of Homeland Security? Because I've heard from other people in different branches of the military say that the Department of Homeland Security is like ghouls. Like, they didn't even want to deal with them whenever they had to. They were just the creepiest people.
Well, it's a giant process when you're working. I was involved, like I said, with marketing communications, which was dealt with commercials on a very weird level. Commercials you can buy in magazines, like there's different trade magazines for the military. But then the other part of it is product placement in television shows, and the other part of it is the news. And getting your story on the news helps affect stock prices.
Wow.
And that's a big, big, big part of the job. The other huge part of the job is proposal presentation and getting that done. And that is a very tedious process. And that's how the government works, through the proposal process.
Yeah.
So dealing with actual humans is like calling the IRS. You're just dealing with people that are trying to just sit at their desk and answer the questions as it comes up on their screen. It's
Yeah.
not. But to kind of get more to your point, the person that I mostly dealt with was our congressman. He was at that time lobbying pretty hardcore for our company, which I've come to find out after, at the time I was very young. I was in my 20s. At the time, I didn't know that was pretty illegal.
Yeah.
And I was helping him.
Yeah, I didn't even know. I know what lobbying is. I didn't know that was illegal. I didn't either.
Well, no, it's the congressman himself should be representing the people that voted for him.
Yeah.
And not necessarily pushing products of private
Yeah.
companies.
Wow. How did you get your start? Like, because I was reading your, I think, bio on your website, and it said your first endeavor was entropypress.com?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I graduated art school. I went to art school, went to Mass College of Art, and when I got out, I'm a painter, and I wanted to show my artwork. And none of the galleries in Boston were taking my work. So I was like, well, what the heck, man? I'm just going to make my own thing. I'm going to start doing something, and I didn't know what. But I got a book called HTML for Dummies, and I started making an online space for myself. And I would do my little code, and I'd put it out to the world that, okay, I'm going to do an episode. I called them an episode about salt. And I just put the word out to everybody around Boston, Cambridge area, and submissions started coming into me about salt. It could have been about table salt, or the very first thing sold on eBay was salt shakers, or biblical things, or things about arms treaties, and I collaged all of them into a hard copy. And the hard copy for the salt issue was a 2-pound canister of salt, like you buy at the grocery store, with a wrapper with all that content that people sent me collaged on the wrapper, and it was 13 feet long.
Wow.
And I'd wrap it around, and I would leave it at places like Boston's Logan Airport, or I'd leave it on the train, or I'd leave it in the bathroom at the club I was at. And that led people to the website, because, of course, it had the URL on it, entropypress.com.
Oh, that's
so that
cool.
was leading people to the website. Of course, you couldn't leave a canister of salt at the airport anymore, but that started getting traffic from places like Spain.
Wow.
We would go to the airport just to leave the magazines or these unique hard copies at the gates at flights that we knew were going off somewhere else.
That's awesome.
And that would drive the traffic to the website, and we were getting more hits at that point. In what year was that? 1997, 1996. We were getting more hits than The Onion at that point.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, of course, you couldn't do that now.
No.
So I was doing that online, but I also had, because I was getting all this stuff sent to me all the time, I opened up a place called Entropy Place, and that was a 2,000 square foot gallery. We had a 250-seat black box theater and a digital recording studio hanging off of that.
Wow.
And
Do you still
so
have that?
No, because we got kicked out. I don't know if you guys are in like New Jersey or New York, right?
Yeah.
But we had the highway, Route 95, that turns into Route 93 to when you get to Boston.
Okay.
And it was going to be, we called it the Big Dig, where they dug underground and put the whole highway under the city. And, of course, our building was going to be used for the construction company. So we got kicked out with the quickness, because the owner of the company said, well, I'll take this giant check from these people that are going to dig under the city. So that's how I lost that. And that right around the time that I got the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. And it was right around the time that I was like, oh, shit, what am I going to do? Because, first off, I didn't know what multiple sclerosis was, and I didn't have health insurance, and I ended up getting married to somebody who lived in Connecticut, who looked like he had a good job, and he had health insurance. I mean, I was in love with him, but I think I was more in love with him because of the situation,
Yeah.
So I married him, and when I got there to Connecticut, he was like, you got to get a real job. I was like, well, I kind of sort of did have a real job. And I ended up working at, it's called, in Hartford, Connecticut, there's a place called Real Art Ways, and I was their marketing person. And I did that for a while because I was like, well, I know sort of how to draw traffic to a place, Entropy Place. I did that. And, I did this magazine, so I did that for a little bit, but I was getting paid nothing, and I was traveling back and forth, and it was costing me more money, in gas than I was making. So I ended up going to a temp agency, and the very first place the temp agency put me was in this defense contractor's office. And at this defense contractor's office, they were just about to get acquired by this giant conglomerate that I just told you about. And the owner of that company, he only communicated with Post-it notes, which, interestingly enough, never get logged. There was no paper trail to ever follow him back to what he was telling the people in the company what to do.
Wow.
And because I was this temp, my job at that point was to march around 3 times a day and pass out printed out emails because they didn't know that they could just forward emails. So they'd have one person just sit there, collect all these emails that were coming into all these computers on everybody's desks, and then print them out, log them in, and march around and pass them out. And finally I was just like, why don't you guys use these computers on your desk and forward the emails? And that got me up to the CEO of the company, and I explained to him you were going to save a lot of money, the paper you'd save and on the printing you'd save, and I got instantly hired, and I was made in charge of communications, and I was like, what the heck, man? I have an art degree. So, and then because of the way that these big conglomerates work, every time they buy a new division, and something else gets acquired, like how it works, because I was the youngest and I was getting paid the least, I just kept spilling into all these other divisions.
Wow.
And that's how I got to see a lot of this stuff that, looking back on it now, I started writing the book, 2.5 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And looking back on it at that point, I was like, wow, I just saw a lot of stuff that it's making the news now. I better start writing a book or something. So that's when I started writing the book.
Wow.
And the reviews on the book, if people like the book, they love the book.
Yeah.
And if they don't really get it, it's usually because they've never worked in an office or they're not aware of a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about. And like I say on the back of my book, right on the back cover, it's kind of a joke, but it's not. It says, note, McIntosh's lawyers have advised her to stress that Security Through Absurdity is a series of novels, the operative word novel, so that she doesn't go to get thrown in jail. Basically, what I did is I took everything and I just changed people's names and I slightly skewed some locations.
Yeah. Now, you said you have MS?
Yeah.
How is it with that? Because is that like, it shuts your nervous system down, right?
Yeah. Well, it's weird. What it is, and I'm not going to get too technical on it, but it's almost like getting a cold sore on your lip, right? But it's in your brain. So you get and they call it lesions on your brain. And if you have more than one of these, it looks like multiple lesions, multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
And when that shows up on your brain, the electrical impulses can't pass through. But fortunately for us humans, your brain can rewire itself. So usually you're down for the count for a little while, and it could happen to anything on your body or the way you think or anything, but your brain will rewire itself around that little scar.
Oh, wow.
And then you feel better. I have relapsing remitting, which is what most people get. And luckily for me, I've maintained that. I think because in the second book, after this first one, the first one is Little Yellow Stickies, the second one is when the character quits her job and she realizes that the medical industry is basically just like the defense contracting place that she left. And in real life, I decided not to stick with traditional Western medicine.
Wow.
And I do homeopathic medicine, and I changed my diet, and I take a lot of vitamin supplements, and I see a naturopath now. And I think that's what's kept me doing very well.
Wow. I wouldn't even think of that. I would think that was like rubbish,
My boss does, he had a lymphoma and he was doing homeopathic medicine, and he was doing it alongside traditional treatments, but it seemed to be staving the cancer off pretty well.
Wow, yeah, I wouldn't even consider that, I don't think. I don't know.
No, well, what ended up happening, I got like I said, I talked about this in the second book. The second book's called Bubbles Will Pop, where everything bad happens to the character, like everything is bad. Right. And she realizes that her neurologist is basically on the payroll for these different drugs that he keeps having her try.
Yeah.
And she realizes, I'm not getting better, and I don't think anybody wants me to get better because this is a cash cow. People are just, pushing these units. So that's what I thought to myself, because it was ridiculous. My mother was taking care of me, and they were getting ready to get a home health aide, and I was like, this is retarded. This doesn't happen to me. There's got to be a different way to deal with this.
That's what I know. I used to work, like I said before, I used to manage a pharmacy, and I dealt with the doctor's offices a lot, and that's what they would do. Whatever the drug companies would get them lunch and would drop off their samples for, that's what they were pushing. So it's on every level with that. It's crazy, just how that all works.
Thank you. You'll love the second book. Then you'll really appreciate that. She's in the office and she notices all this like marketing swag that's all over the place. There's the calendar, there's the pens, there's actually wearing the sun visor, a T-shirt they gave her.
Mouse pads.
Yeah, there's a sunscreen with the logo on it. I'm like, why is there sunscreen? So that that was the tipping point where she's just like, screw it.
That's true.
But that when I said, and I kind of flip back and forth between she said and I said because the main character is me.
Yeah.
But the main character in the book is called Jocelyn McLaren, and I'm Rachael McIntosh. So Jocelyn and Rachael are kind of interchangeable.
Right. Now I was actually curious because you keep saying like you talk about how you have to do this disclaimer thing so that you don't end up in jail. Have you ever been threatened at all because you're writing this stuff?
No. Not yet.
Okay.
That's cool.
No, this is my very first book ever. I never wanted to be a writer or anything. And then I got the third book. Well, in that second book, where Bubbles Will Pop, where everything bad happens to her, she gets involved with politics because she wants to make things right for sure. She gets pregnant, she has these kids, and she wants to make things right in the world for the kids. And also, she's got the father of the kids is a mercenary from the place she used to work. So there's a lot of fictional stuff that's going on around this mercenary guy, who really is the father of the children in real life. But anyhow, she discovers a candidate that she believes in, and she wants to get involved with that. In the third book, she gets elected to go to, finally, the RNC in Tampa in the 2012, which I did. And I saw that it was, and why it didn't dawn on me before this, that it was a completely fictional, made-up, like, theater-type thing. And when I should have known this is because when I worked for the defense contractor and I placed news stories, all this stuff was so planned out, how the stories would run, the B-roll, which is the clips that they would show on the news, were usually created by the people that were pushing a product. And so when I got to the RNC, I couldn't believe what a ridiculous... It was literally theater. We're watching theater. And I came home and I was so disappointed that I had believed that politics would fix anything. And that's when I started typing. And when I started typing, I started thinking, well, why did I put so much of myself into this? And it brought me all the way back to working for that defense contractor and why I wanted to fix things. And when I wrote, I ended up writing, it was a Mama Gawanch of a manuscript, and I gave it to the publishers. And they said, oh, you've given us 4.8 novels. We want you to do a couple things. One, we want you to take out a life insurance policy. Two, we want you to use a pen name. And three, we're going to break it down into a trilogy. And I said, okay. I did everything but use a pen name because all my family members have heard me tell these stories before.
Right. But hearing that didn't kind of scare you or make you think like twice about doing it? No, not at all, because I think a lot of the stuff I talk about in this first book and that Little Yellow Stickies I'm touching upon things that probably weren't covered in the news and probably are a bit conflicting to what people might think about certain things, specifically September 11th. Okay. And I just did an interview with the local newspaper, the Providence Journal, which is Associated Press, and the man, he seemed like, I felt like I watched his brain just sort of kind of snap and when he put some of the stuff together that I was telling him about, and he's like, well, and he literally said this to me, he said, I choose to believe, and that's specific, he said, I choose to believe that some men with box cutters did this. Yeah. And I was like, okay. I said, I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just reporting what I saw through this fictional character. And he was like, oh, okay.
And I haven't heard from him since. He was supposed to run the story like 2 weeks ago, and it hasn't run. So I'm going to go and call him back, and when I've got my new book in hand, and be like, well, I've got the new book out now, and maybe we can focus on the new book if the first book was a little too creepy.
Okay, all right, Rachel. We actually have to wrap this up because we have another interview in about 5 minutes, but it's great talking to you. Why don't you give all your plugs, promote what you got to promote, websites, books, whatever, and then we'll let you go.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me in the first place. My website is RachelLMcIntosh.com. That's RACHAEL with another L for that Lynn, McIntosh, McIntosh.com. My book, you can go on Amazon and just type in Little Yellow Stickies, and it comes right up. You'll see a little magazine that pops up if you go to see Little Yellow Stickies. Underneath it, it's called 28 Pages. It's the 3 or 4 chapters about the inside the Defense Contracting Office on 9/11, and you can read that. Every once in a while, it's free. Sometimes it's not. That got downloaded over 2,000 times on 9/11 of this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And the next book will be out, I hope, and within a couple weeks. We're just waiting on the covers.
All right,
Cool,
Rachel.
cool.
Well, thank you for the interview.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You take
Hey,
care.
thank you, guys. Have a good night.
You
You
too.
too.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm gonna take a quick piss.
All right.
Have a smoke.
I guess I'm going to put on some music and
And
then we'll call a break. She
then
was
we'll
cool,
call-
though. She was interesting.
Call
She's somebody,
Samantha. Yeah,
somebody who I would want to. I have more questions.
I
for
hadn't
her.
got into the Ron Paul because I know her bio said that she worked with Ron Paul.
Yeah, there are a
and
lot
that's
more things. There's more stories
Yeah.
there too that would
Oh
be
my
nice
God.
to
I asked Nick. I guess he's her. What's that?
publish this.
Whatever.
so.
The guy I was in contact with about her. Like I asked him.